gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government.
And then we see articles about Obama. He's plunging. He's in trouble. The point is you've got the Republican leadership with Obama and the state-run media all attacking the Libertarian Tea Party right now because they are able to point out that it's the globalists that are wrecking things. The globalists may get the blame and may get in trouble for what they've done, and we could have a real restoration of our republic. If we have a real debate about this, then the worst common denominator in politics and in special interest won't be able to govern our entire society and take over our world. And so with that backdrop, we have to understand that we're dealing with an inbred group of royalty and other powerful families who universally in their own publications say they believe humanity's a bunch of ugly trash. We're eating up their resources. The world is theirs. We are an infestation that must be culled, that must be removed, that must be gotten rid of. And so whether you want to believe that reality or not, that reality is there. That reality is the policy and the point from which this whole system flows. You know, back in 1990, just so you know the type of evil we're dealing with, in Northern Europe, in Western Europe, in England, and in the United States, all at the same concerted time, they began mandated, basically under UNESCO, UN guidelines. That's what our Department of Education's under. And so are these other Department of Educations. That's why from Australia to the U.S., it's the same programs, same names in most cases. Global standardization through regulatory systems. Agenda 21 is just part of that on the environment to take over society and centralize control by these arrogant globalists who see us as a plague when they're really the plague. They came out and began death education and suicide prevention as part of death education, having kids get in coffins, having children be rolled up in blankets and have kids sit on them to simulate death, so that children that never thought about death would then get into it and begin thinking about it. Where they came out about a month ago in a big national study we covered here and said, wow, all over the country, anti-bullying training triples bullying. Well, yeah, you go tell 11-year-old girls how to strangle themselves with a shoestring, hanging it on a coat rack in the bathroom, and you teach 500 girls that in a school of 1,000. In every school, sometimes 3 or 4, because they would copy each other. That's what little girls do. They would go hang themselves. There have been national news stories about this. Like, did it backfire? It didn't backfire. For 40 years or more, it just came out in the news again last week. They have kids play spaceship or lifeboat and go, we need policemen, we need teachers, we need bureaucrats. We don't need librarians or whatever. And then they decide who's thrown off the spaceship or who's thrown off the lifeboat because there's not enough food for everybody. So we've got to decide who dies. Yeah, there's CBS News. Anti-bullying programs are having an opposite effect. And they ask, are they? And, of course, it's a tripling in the overall rate in the 50 states in a major study of 7,000 students. But shifting gears, the point is, John Bound goes, why didn't you cover yesterday? It was in your stack, and I saw you talking about it. Why didn't you talk about Belgium and the Netherlands and others are set if kids want to commit suicide? And of course, folks, you can't come to a kid and say, you're 12, do you want to have an abortion? You have the parental right. Well, now they do that in California. Now, your parents don't count now. You make the decision. Well, they're a minor. That's why you can't go convince a minor to have sex with you or a minor to use drugs. They don't have free will, every culture has said. And you can't have outsiders, the state, saying it's their free will to have an abortion with your kid, or their free will to give them a morning after pill, or their free will to give them inoculations. They're now passing laws. So you heard about, decades ago in Europe, they passed laws saying kids have rights to divorce their parents and all this, just if they don't like them or their parents are Christians or whatever, they'll take them away, or the parents don't want the 5-year-old to be a lesbian because the school taught them that they were a lesbian. It's not pedophilia when you do that. It's loving liberalness. So you could go then be taken away and do whatever you want at age 5 if you want it. Well, now the state's teaching the kids that if you want to commit suicide, we'll help you right now. And CBS News is reporting it. NBC News is reporting it. The London Telegraph is reporting it. Belgium considering new euthanasia law for kids, and they report it like it's no big deal. And so they say in California, they will give you money prizes on discount cards. They will give you video games, you name it, if you go and you get the inoculations or if you have the abortion. So they tell your kids, we will pay you to have an abortion and your parents don't count. I mean, that is just light years past the Soviet Union. Just like they're telling the Army, if you're a Christian or you're part of the Tea Party, we're going to arrest you. And then that's a footnote, and Fox News asks, is that good? Can't say, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. No, see, it's all part of acclimating now. The supposed opposition news just says, is that good? Remember last year, Paul Watson published an article that for a week no one picked up because they didn't believe it, from the Journal of Bioethics saying kill children, even healthy up to age 3 if the parents wanted to. Then finally people admitted it was real. It was a big national story. A year and a half later, it's like, well, of course we're going to kill kids. And if your 10-year-old wants to, we'll give them the pills to do it. In 1992, 2020 on ABC News, I know because I had the tape years ago and played clips of it on my Access television show in 1996 and did investigations of it, that they had a doubling, tripling, or quadrupling, depending on which study or report you looked at, of suicides right after they started teaching the most impressionable coast to coast. The first school to start it was Littleton in Colorado. Basically a hardcore mind control program, teaching the intermediate school children, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, how to commit suicide. And then they stood back and said, we have no idea, the teachers and folks at the school, that's how compartmentalized they were with cognitive dissonance. There's no way the feds would give them a program that would make kids kill themselves. So what did they do? They increased the anti-suicide, but also death training. And again, I bet it's on YouTube. I haven't even checked. You can find death education's the actual term. In coffins, putting 6-year-olds in and teaching them how to hang themselves. And then you wonder, the DARE program, increased drug use, on record, teaching the kids how to use drugs. And we sort of go, oh, the cops don't know that. No, the average cop doesn't know that. They've been selected because they don't know that. They're in there teaching kids how to use drugs, and others how to tattle on people using drugs to fill the private prisons, to prime the children for a life of crime. This is a total war on humanity, folks. This is eugenics. This is population reduction. And we've gotten to the point that I've become so acclimated, I've become so prepared, myself just living with this evil, that it comes out in CBS News, NBC News, London Telegraph, is one of the top stories in the country. They actually found a WorldNet Daily article from back a decade ago about death education at Columbine. Good job. That's what's so good about having a WorldNet Daily since '96. They covered it all. You print that for me, guys. See, here's what happens. I see one article, and then 1,000 I've seen over the years literally pop in my mind. And then I think about all the other connections, and I freak out. I'm not kidding. That's why I get so angry on air. That's a defense mechanism against not crying, folks. They're teaching children everywhere how to commit suicide right now. And then they use the increased suicide to increase more suicide training. And they give them suicide mass murder pills. And then Saturday Night Live and Conan O'Brien and Comedy Central and all the other shows, they all make jokes. Every major comedy show in the country, I saw at least 7 or 8 of them. Shows I don't even watch or know the names of, but big folks I've heard the name of, but don't really know who they are. They all made jokes with me about mass murder suicide pills. See, because they had to hide it in plain view. Oh, he says the shootings are happening at schools because they're always on mass murder suicide pills. That's what they should be called. The insert says causes mass murder and suicide. Megalomania. Delusions of grandeur. And even 2020 admitted in Columbine it tripled suicides. Yeah, there it is. Actually, it's my memory. They found it from 13 years ago. I was correct. Look at that. And, of course, that's what World Net Daily reported. I remember this from 1996 when somebody sent me the tape, a concerned listener. The tape was aired on British television, and the Atlantic Monthly did a feature story. The producers at 2020 saw the video and decided to do a segment on the death education, which was aired in 1990. So my memory is photographic on that. But not anymore, folks. Like everything about 5 years ago is almost photographic. Now it's not. That's why I've got to double-check myself. I remember that video very well because it was called The Freelance Writer, who was working on the story and sent her some of the newsletters I'd written on the subject. We should get these writers and these people that lost their kids. In fact, I've interviewed Austinites over the years. Once I aired this, all these Austinites contacted me, including one that was a medical doctor. And his 11-year-old daughter, totally happy, totally playing sports, playing basketball, playing lacrosse, champion swimmer. This is why we're having the flashbacks, folks, of the data in this fight. And I just see the yuppies laughing about it as they murder our children by design. It's so funny to them by implanting mind control in their brains to make them kill themselves. They have all the studies and actuaries. They know what percentage of kids will kill themselves when they tell them the sad story of another little girl that was sad for her boyfriend. They know about the phenomenon with Romeo and Juliet when they would do Shakespeare plays. Statistically, to large crowds, a lot of times the women would go kill themselves. So the globalists, that's one data point they got. They did a test of it. They teach them a Romeo-Juliet story, but they'll tell them a real story of a girl and how sad it was that she killed herself for a love. And the little girls are so touched by it and want to have a feeling of connection to the little girl that died. They go to the bathroom and they kill themselves. And the New World Order dances in pleasure. Do you realize the mega evil we're dealing with here? And now they're teaching them to have abortions and saying, Mommy and Daddy don't know. Here's your money. Have the abortion. Folks, if you went to a 16-year-old girl and you were 19 years old, they would charge you with statutory rape and probably should. If you were 18, she was 16, it starts becoming borderline in my mind. But the point is older guys shouldn't be preying on young women who really aren't women yet in some cases. But obviously, if you're 20 and you go after an 11-year-old, that's child molestation. You should get 50 years in prison. If you're 20 and you go after a 5-year-old, you should be executed. But the whole point here is that the state comes in and goes, we're going to teach you to have abortions. We're going to let you have inoculations. You have free will. We passed a law saying the age of consent is lowered. This is pervert government coming in and getting in with your kids, teaching them how to kill themselves. Children committing suicide under the age of 16, if you go to the statistics, was unheard of in this country. Last time I checked, there are people under 12 killing themselves by the tens of thousands every year. And it's the same nationwide and worldwide. They are doing this. And see, this is how my brain works. I've got all this incredibly important news, but then Bound goes, hey, this is in your stack. Why didn't you cover this? He's got a daughter. He's shook up by it. The state comes to your 5-year-old daughter. How old's your daughter? 5, 6? 5. I got a 5-year-old daughter. And imagine, they come to him, they tell him a story of a little girl that committed suicide, but since a 5-year-old doesn't know how to go hang themselves in Belgium yet, they're not 11. They tell them, if you decide and sign the paper, honey, we're going to make you go to sleep. You'll never wake up. And this is seen as a right. The vampire, imagine if Nosferatu came to a 5-year-old's bed, the devil incarnate, Count Dracula, and told a little girl, it's your choice if you want me to suck your blood and kill you. And then you'll be undead. Is he a hero? Well, yeah, in the culture, he is a hero. See, death and zombies and destruction, this is a beautiful sacrament. And see, I'm the bad man. I am the bad man. I am the bad man. I don't want your 11-year-old daughter to go to a public school in California where she'll be preyed upon by guys that have flunked 4 grades, and basically it's rape. And then when they get her pregnant, you'll say, well, if it's rape, we need to kill the kid. No, that's another crime on top of it. But the point is the parents, even if you believe in abortion, should be involved in it. No. Now the state, can we cue up that NBC lady in the promo saying your kids don't belong to you? This is the type of evil we're dealing with, and they're not going to stop.
Just before you go...